Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a stack of sources you sent over, all pointing towards a really significant development in the Pi network, specifically the serious plan they seem to be putting together to launch their own native cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah, and this isn't just, blue sky thinking. It feels more like a strategic necessity now. You've got, over 10 million users already migrated to the mainnet
Yeah,
and a growing number of dApps. They need a proper financial engine.
exactly. And here's the number that really makes you pause, the one that sort of forces their hand, I think. Pi has this reported market cap north of $2 billion. The sources say $2.19 billion based on how it's valued externally right now. But then you look at the actual daily trading volume on those same external exchanges, and it's tiny in comparison, around $30 million a day.
Right. And that disconnect is, well, it's a huge red flag, isn't it? If your daily volume is only like 1.5% of your supposed market cap, it suggests that the price isn't really supported by deep liquid demand. It hints that the price discovery might be quite fragile.
So the mission for us today is pretty clear. We need to unpack the thinking behind this, the actual structure they're proposing, this kind of hybrid model, and crucially, the big risks involved in actually pulling this off.
Okay, so first things first. Why even bother? Why not just stick with Binance or Kraken or whoever?
Well, it seems to boil down to two main things: cost and control. Or maybe the loss of control?
Let's start with the cost. The economic drain. Every single time PI is traded on an external platform, fees are generated, right? But those fees go to the exchange, Binance, Coinbase, whoever. That money flows out of the Pi ecosystem.
And it's not just trading fees. Getting listed in the first place, that costs a fortune sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Listing fees can run into the millions of dollars. That's just pure capital outlay before a single trade happens. So you have the upfront cost, then the ongoing drain from trading fees. It weakens the network financially.
Okay, so that's the economic argument. What about the strategic side, the control aspect?
This is maybe even more critical. Relying on third parties makes them incredibly vulnerable. Think about regulation. An external exchange, maybe facing pressure in its home country, could just decide to delist PI. Boom. Liquidity gone overnight for potentially millions of users.
Vouch.
And then there's market manipulation. If a third party controls the order book, they have immense power over the price. It opens the door to potential manipulation that the PiCore team can't prevent.
So relying on others means you're exposed to their rules, their priorities, their potential problems.
Precisely. Plus, you lose that native integration. You can't tightly weave the exchange experience into the Pi browser and other Pi apps if it's sitting on someone else's platform.
Right.
This move feels less like an upgrade and more like essential self-defense for the project's future.
And it's not like they're inventing the wheel here. Other big projects have gone down this path, haven't they?
Definitely. This is almost a standard playbook item for successful layer ones or large ecosystems. You look at Binance with BSC and Binance DEX, obvious example. Or Uniswap for Ethereum. It basically defined DeFi trading there. PancakeSwap, SushiSwap, the list goes on. Controlling your own trading environment is pretty fundamental to capturing value and ensuring the ecosystem thrives long term.
Okay, so the why seems solid. A strategic necessity, as you said. Let's dig into the how. The sources talk about a hybrid model, trying to blend the best of centralized and decentralized exchanges. That sounds tricky. How do they plan to make that work technically?
Yeah, it's ambitious. The idea is to get the user experience benefits of a centralized exchange and the CX side. So really fast order matching. You need speed for traders. And advanced trading tools, limit orders, stop losses, maybe even margin trading eventually, things pros expect.
Right, the smooth performance and features people are used to on the big platform.
Exactly, speed and service. But then, crucially, they want the trust and security aspects of decentralized finance, the DX side.
Meaning, users keep control of their own money, non-custodial.
That's the goal. Users retain control of their private keys. No massive central honeypot of user funds for hackers to target. And the trading logic itself, governed by transparent smart contracts, maybe even some community governance for adding features down the line.
Okay, speed and features from CEX, trust and user control from DX. But how do they actually bridge that? Where does the integration magic happen?
Well, this is where Pi's existing structure gives them a potential advantage. KYC synchronization.
Ah, know your customer. So you mean tapping into the identity verification that Pi users have already gone through for the mainnet migration?
Precisely. Instead of forcing everyone to go through a separate, clunky KYC process just for the exchange, they can leverage the existing verified Pi identity. That can make onboarding incredibly smooth compared to signing up for a totally new external exchange.
That is clever. It fits that one application, all services idea they seem to be pushing. Wallet, dApps, exchange, all integrated via the Pi browser, all linked to your verified identity.
Yeah, that seamlessness is a potential huge selling point if they can pull it off.
I also noticed a small detail in the sources about customer support, specifically mentioning localized support, including Czech language options. What does that signal to you?
Two things, really. First, it confirms their user base is already very global and diverse. They know they need local language support, not just English. Second, it suggests they're thinking very seriously about global regulatory compliance from the outset. Offering specific European language support hints they're already planning for things like MiCA in the EU.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk assets. What would actually be traded on this exchange initially?
Well, the obvious starting point is pairing PI against major stablecoins. So PIUSDT, PIUSDC, those are almost guaranteed. But importantly, they plan to support native tokens from the PiDApp ecosystem too. There are, what, 80-plus active dApps already?
Right, so giving those projects a native place to find liquidity.
Exactly. And they mention offering automated market maker AM pools like Uniswap or PancakeSwap use. That's crucial for DeFi projects building on Pi. Plus, and this is key for bringing external value in, they're planning a cross-chain bridge.
To bring in assets like Bitcoin and Ether.
Yes, BTC, ETH, other major cryptos, that would make the Pi exchange not just an internal market, but a potential gateway connecting Pi to the broader crypto world.
Okay, if they nail this integration, the KYC sync, the dApp support, the bridge, the economic impact could be pretty dramatic for the network itself.
Oh, absolutely. It flips the script entirely on value capture. Remember those fees draining out to external exchanges? Now, those trading fees stay within the Pi ecosystem.
So direct income for the network, what can they do with that?
Fund further development, obviously, but also, crucially, create really attractive incentives. Think staking rewards for holding PI, liquidity mining programs designed to pull liquidity away from competitors and onto the Pi exchange. They can fund aggressive campaigns if the fee revenue is strong.
And what does this do for the PI token itself? Does it get more useful?
Definitely. Its core utility increases massively. If you need PI to pay for trading fees on the native exchange, that creates constant organic demand for the token. More transactions, more activity. The sources even mention the possibility of token burning mechanisms.
Like linking token burns to high trading volume, taking tokens out of circulation.
Exactly. That's a deflationary pressure, which can help stabilize or even increase the token's price over the long term. It combats inflation from block rewards. So more utility, potential deflation, and more controlled liquidity, which hopefully leads to a more stable price, less vulnerable to those external manipulations we talked about.
And for the developers building those 80-plus dApps, this sounds like a huge boost too.
A massive boost. Suddenly they have a clear, simple path to get their project's token listed and find liquidity within the ecosystem. Access to AMM pools provides essential DeFi infrastructure. Maybe even ways to share liquidity across different dApps. It just lowers the friction significantly for builders.
Okay, the potential upside is clear. Stronger token, more revenue, better developer support, more control. But let's pivot to the reality check. Execution. This is a huge undertaking. What are the major roadblocks? The sources seem to scream one challenge above all others.
Regulation. Without a doubt, it's a global regulatory minefield.
Building the tech is one thing, but getting permissions slips from governments worldwide.
That's the mountain to climb. You need licenses in potentially dozens of different countries, each with its own rules. You need incredibly robust anti-money laundering, AML, and KYC procedures that satisfy international standards. Constant reporting, compliance checks. It's complex and very expensive.
And Europe's MiCA regulation got a specific mention. Markets in crypto assets. That sounds serious.
It is. MiCA comes into full effect in 2025. It mandates formal authorization for crypto asset service providers, like exchanges. It requires hefty capital reserves, strict operational rules, consumer protection measures. Just navigating MiCA compliance for the EU market alone is a multi-year, multi-million-dollar effort.
Wow. Okay. So the regulatory hurdle is enormous. But even if they clear that, what about the tech itself? Can they build something that actually works at scale?
That's the next massive challenge. You're talking about an exchange that needs to potentially handle millions of users maybe concurrently during peak times. It needs to be scalable. It needs rock-solid security. Exchanges are prime targets for hackers. One major breach could destroy trust instantly.
And it needs to be fast. Traders won't tolerate laggy systems.
Absolutely. Latency has to be competitive with the established players. If the Pi exchange feels slow or clunky compared to Binance or Coinbase, people just won't use it no matter how convenient the Pi integration is. The performance has to be top tier.
And speaking of Binance and Coinbase, the competition is hardly just going to roll over.
Not a chance. They're up against giants. Binance, Coinbase, OKX. These are multi-billion-dollar companies with huge user bases, deep liquidity, and years of operational experience. And that's just the CEX side. In DeFi, they're competing with entrenched players like Uniswap that have powerful network effects. Pi isn't just adding a feature here. They're trying to launch a complex, regulated, high-performance financial institution essentially from scratch into one of the most competitive markets on Earth.
Okay, regulations, tech, competition, any other major risks. What about within the Pi community itself?
There's an interesting tension, isn't there? The community desperately wants the liquidity and utility an exchange brings. But to achieve the necessary speed and performance, especially with that hybrid CEX model, the Pi core team will inevitably need to control significant parts of the exchange infrastructure.
The centralized components.
Yeah, and that creates the risk of centralization.
Hmm.
It's kind of ironic. If the core team ends up having too much control over this critical piece of financial infrastructure, does that undermine the whole decentralized ethos that Pi was built on? It could become a single point of failure, or raise concerns about censorship or control down the line. Balancing performance with decentralization is a really tricky tightrope walk.
So, given all of this, the massive regulatory lift, the technical complexity, the fierce competition, the internal balancing act, what's a realistic timeline here? When might we actually see this thing launch?
Look, this is definitely a long game. The sources suggest a phased rollout, which makes sense. Expect 2025, maybe stretching into 2026, to be primarily focused on the core technical build-out and rigorous testing, internal stuff.
So, probably no public access for a while then.
Unlikely. We might see, perhaps, a beta version with limited features sometime in the 2026 to 2027 window, testing the waters, gathering feedback.
And full functionality, mainstream use.
That feels like 2027 at the earliest, realistically. Maybe even later, depending on how smoothly the regulatory approvals go, especially with things like MiCA.
Right. So for you, the listener watching this space, what are the concrete signs to look for that indicate real progress is being made, beyond just announcements?
Good question. I'd watch for tangible things. Job postings? Are they hiring crypto lawyers, compliance officers, exchange developers, security engineers? That signals serious investment. Partnership announcements, are they teaming up with established financial service providers, market makers, or security firms? And the big one, actual regulatory filings, submitting applications for licenses in key jurisdictions like the EU or major Asian markets. That's when you know it's getting real. Community polls on features could also be a sign of development progress.
Okay, so summing this all up, it feels like launching a native exchange isn't just a nice-to-have for the Pi network anymore. It's evolved into a logical next step, almost a strategic necessity if they want to transition from being this sort of large-scale experiment into a genuinely self-sustaining financial ecosystem.
I think that's fair. The strategic rationale is absolutely sound. They need to control their own financial rails, capture value, support their dApps, and reduce external dependencies. That part makes complete sense. But everything hinges on the execution.
The tech, the regulations, the user experience.
All of it. And managing that centralization risk we talked about. The ultimate irony might be that in solving the liquidity problem by building this powerful, efficient hybrid exchange, they risk concentrating too much power, potentially alienating the very community that made the network large enough to need an exchange in the first place. So the big question for you to ponder until 2027 or beyond is, can they actually pull this off? And given the complexity, especially regulatory hurdles like MiCA, is that 2027 plus timeline for full launch feeling aggressive or maybe even a bit conservative? Execution is everything here.